On Friday, May 9th, join us for a special program featuring Karen Minnis, Speaker of the Oregon House of Representatives. She will provide us with an update on the progress of the legislature and provide a glimpse of what she expects might happen before the session ends. Please also note that the club's long-range report on community policing in Portland will be presented and voted upon at that meeting. The meeting will be at the Benson Hotel, not here. Please note again, it's the Benson Hotel next week. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part by corporate underwriting from Wells Fargo Bank, Legacy Health Systems, and Weyerhaeuser Company Foundation. We are very grateful for their report. Now on to our main program. Our board host seated at the head table today is Gwen Milius, member of the Board of Governors and partner in the firm of Stevie and Milius. She will have the privilege of asking the first question of our speakers. Following Gwen's question, we will open the program to questions from City Club members in the audience. Please line up behind the microphone even before Gwen has finished speaking so that we can avoid any lag time between questions and so that we have time to ask as many questions as possible. Please identify yourself as a member of City Club and ask your question in 30 seconds. Let me also add that there is information about the topic of today's discussion at the table near the back door, a variety of information materials. The events of 9/11 and the war in Iraq have put a severe test to the ideal of an America that celebrates diverse ethnicities, religions, and cultures of our people. This test has been particularly challenging for those with Arabic roots and those of the Muslim faith. Today we have three speakers who have been leaders in the effort to bridge the gap among diverse religions in America. Gloria Tuma is an Arab-American of Lebanese descent who has attended universities in the U.S. and abroad, including the American University of Beirut. She has taught and done research in the medical sciences and was an associate dean for admissions at Reed College before attending Portland State University to receive her master's in social work. For the last 12 years, she has been a licensed clinical social worker at OHSU, and she has also been a senior scholar at the Center for Ethics in Healthcare. Ms. Tuma is a member of the Presbyterian Church and has been active in numerous human rights organizations, among them the Arab and Muslim Police Advisory Council. Shahriar Ahmed, second from the end, was born in Bangladesh and received his BS degree there. Since coming to the United States, he has received his MS from the State University of New York at Buffalo and his PhD from Rice University. Since 1985, he has been with the Intel Corporation. Shahriar Ahmed is the president of the Bilal Mosque Association of Beaverton, one of the largest and most important mosques in the Portland metro area. The Bilal Mosque has been active in interfaith programs and over the last year and a half has participated in approximately 120 interfaith meetings with various schools, universities, churches, and synagogues. Alhaj Mikal Shabazz has been a pioneer in creating interfaith dialogue throughout the state of Oregon. In 1986, he was the first Muslim leader to open the Oregon House of Representatives with prayer. For over 23 years, he directed the Muslim Community Center in Northeast Portland as imam. In 2001, Alhaj Shabbaz became leader of the Oregon Islamic Chaplains Organization, a nonprofit organization that provides religious services to incarcerated Muslims and their families. He is well known for his lectures, workshops, and seminars on the commonality of the Abrahamic religions, inspiring people to seek common ground for peace and justice. He is currently a senior plumbing inspector in the City of Portland's Facility Permit Program and also the founder and president of Time to Act Now, a spiritually based coaching and motivational speaking company. Alhaj Shabbaz will need to leave promptly at 1:15 to attend midday prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I'm going to begin with a summary of who Arabs are in the world, and we'll look then at who Arab Americans are, who they are demographically and by name. We'll see that not all Arabs are Muslims, and not all Muslims are Arabs. I'll share with you some of the things that have caused me great sadness and concern in these times. I will also share some things that give me hope. I'm going to speak rather quickly and broadly, and so it's my sincere desire that you will ask deep and probing questions during the question and answer period. So who are Arabs? There are over 300 million Arabs in the world, Arabs are simply people who live in the 22 Arabic-speaking countries of the Middle East and North Africa. So Turkey and Iran are not Arab countries. They do not speak Arabic in those countries. Not all Arabs are Muslims. Although most Arabs are Muslims, there are millions of Arabs who are Christians, and there are thousands of Arabs who are Jewish. The countries with the largest number of Christians have been Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world. Not all Muslims are Arabs. In fact, the largest number of Muslims are Asian. In Indonesia alone, there are more Muslims than in all the Arab countries combined. The second largest number of Muslims are African. Arabs comprise only 12% of the Muslims worldwide. Well, who are Arab Americans? There are about 3 million Arab Americans. They come from all the Arab countries, but most come from or trace their ancestry to Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Iraq, and Yemen. 42% of Arab Americans are Catholic, 23% are Orthodox, 12% are Protestant. So, unlike in the Arab world, the majority of Arab Americans are Christian. 77% are Christian, 23% are Muslim. As you heard earlier, I'm a Christian of Lebanese descent. There were two major waves of immigrants from the Arab world to the United States. The first was from 1875 to around 1920. The second wave began after World War II. All of my parents came during the first wave of immigrants. My great-grandmother was so determined to come to this country. When she was told that her diseased eye was preventing her from gaining passage to the United States, she had her eye removed. Like many immigrants, my grandparents came with little education or money, but they worked hard, overcame obstacles, and made sure their children were well educated. They assimilated. For them, the American dream became a reality. They were grateful and proud to be Americans. My father and 5 of his brothers served in World War II. As a young adult, I had the privilege of studying at the American University of Beirut for a year. It was during that time that I had the luxury and the gift of consciously recognizing and reclaiming much of my Arab ethnic identity. Back to Arab Americans as a whole, though. Arab Americans live in every state. A third of them live in Michigan, California, and New York. Detroit has the largest number of Arab Americans with 200,000. New York City has 160,000 Arab Americans. Los Angeles, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. are other places with high concentrations of Arab Americans. Arab Americans have higher levels of education, employment, and income than the national averages. 67% vote, which is also higher than the national average. Politically, they have been equally divided among Republicans, Democrats, and independent parties. It's hard to determine the exact number of Arab Americans in the Portland, Vancouver area, but I've heard estimates that there are well over 7,000. They are predominantly Christian and with a growing number of Muslims. They are predominantly middle class and professionals, though they are represented in all socioeconomic classes. We are a diverse group, and we don't all look, think, or act alike. I might note here that the number of foreign students from Arab countries in Oregon's universities and colleges has dropped to nearly 0. Negative stereotypes and discrimination of Arabs and Muslims in the press and in the media is long-standing, for decades. And it has only gotten worse since the tragedies of September 11, 2001. In a poll taken in October of 2001, we found that almost half of Arab Americans said they knew of someone who experienced discrimination because of their ethnicity. 1 in 5 stated they personally experienced discrimination. Hate crimes against Arabs and Muslims, or those perceived to be Arabs or Muslims in this country, rose a staggering 1,600% in the year following the tragedies of 9/11, and it continues to rise. Arab Americans are politicians, Nobel Prize winners, and people in every trade and profession. Notables include, and I might add that many of these people are people who've been to Portland, and perhaps you've heard them speak or have watched them perform. Politicians George Mitchell, Donna Shalala, John Sununu, Spencer Abraham. Consumer advocate and Green Party presidential candidate Ralph Nader. Entertainers Marlo Thomas, daughter of Danny Thomas, Casey Kasem, Jamie Farr, F. Murray Abraham, Paul Anka, Paula Abdul, Tony Shalhoub, football player Doug Flutie, race car champion Bobby Rahal, heart surgeon Michael DeBakey, teacher and astronaut Christy McAuliffe, founder of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Candy Leitner, journalist Helen Thomas, author and poet Naomi Shihab Nye. In Oregon, Arab Americans have served in local and state government. People like Victor Atiyah, who served 2 terms as governor of the state, or Richard Eunice, recently retired as state Supreme Court Justice. Other family names that may be familiar to you from politics, business, or the professions are Kafuri, Hannah, Tulan, Kal, Bitar, Rask, Saeed, Hassan, Sawaya, Khoury, and Abu Jaber. Things that have recently caused me great sadness and concern. Well, the increased rate of hate crimes, continuing stereotypes of Arabs and Muslims by the media, hate radio, Christian religious leaders like Jerry Falwell and Franklin Graham who condemn Islam, the fear that Arab Americans and Muslims Americans have of being separated out from our society. Remember when Arab-looking men were pulled off of planes after 9/11 for no other reason than their appearance? I believe that it was this kind of fear and behavior that led to the Japanese internment camps of World War II. The Patriot Act and the proposed Patriot Act II caused me profound concern. Things that give me hope. Individuals and communities reaching out to each other. The coming together of Portland's Arab, Muslim, and Japanese communities after 9/11 gives me hope. There's an interfaith council in Portland, and it's huge. There are interfaith dialogue groups, and they are growing. Muslim, Christians, and Jews are coming together to learn, to share, and to struggle together. Organizations that give me hope include the Arab-American Institute, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, the Muslim Educational Trust, the Fairness in Media Campaign, and the Anti-Hate Radio Campaign, which is based here in, one of them is based here in Portland. People who give me hope include Hanan Ashrawi, Edward Said, and Ralph Nader, all of whom have been to Portland. There are many in our city who are finding a voice and speak out clearly and eloquently. People like Wajdi Said and Zaha Hassan. Sometimes there are relatively minor things that give me hope. For instance, last fall in Highlights for Children, which is distributed throughout our public schools, they had an article on Ramadan. The documentary Gaza Strip gives me hope, for it gives voice to Palestinian children and youth. It's incredibly sobering. It portrays the oppression of these children in a way that paradoxically transcends the political. The friendship and collaboration between Palestinian American scholar Edward Said and Israeli musician Daniel Barenboim gives me hope. They have co-authored a book entitled Parallels and Paradoxes, Explorations in Music and Society. A Palestinian American minister holds the highest elected position in the Presbyterian Church. Dr. Fahid Abu Akel is the first Palestinian to head a major U.S. Christian denomination. Interesting enough, he'll be visiting Portland tonight. Throughout the community and state, there are lectures and discussions like the ones we are holding here today. This gives me great hope. But my hope and enthusiasm is sometimes tempered. My mother, being the protective parent that she is, cautions me not to speak out, whether it's about being against the war in Iraq, or speaking out for Palestinian human rights, or being identified as an Arab American. You see, she lives in the Detroit area and knows that many Arabs and Muslims have been rounded up, literally taken off the streets. Locally, we in Portland have recently seen the case of Mike Kawash, who was held for 5 weeks without being charged. I believe that Arab Americans and Muslim Americans are the current canaries in the mines. We are the first to feel the threats to our civil liberties, to freedom, to justice, to our constitutional rights, the things that we hold sacred and are at the core of who we are as Americans. Due process, legal representation, and the presumption of innocence are being replaced by a system of secrecy and guilt by association. The prognosis for those who are the current canaries is most grave. Well, I want to end on a more positive note, and I'm reminded of the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran's writing to Syrian Americans in 1926. It gives me hope, and I would like to read it to you today. It reminds me of my family's history, our values, and the love of this country. I think that many immigrants from around the world can identify with much of it. And I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold. I believe in you, and I believe in your destiny. I believe that you are contributors to this new civilization. I believe that you have inherited from your forefathers an ancient dream, a song, a prophecy which you can proudly lay as a gift of gratitude upon the lap of America. I believe you can say to the founders of this great nation, "Here I am, a youth, a young tree whose roots were plucked from the hills of Lebanon, yet I am deeply rooted here, and I would be fruitful." I believe that you can say to Abraham Lincoln, the Blessed, "Jesus of Nazareth touched your lips when you spoke and guided your hand when you wrote, and I shall uphold all that you have said and all that you have written." I believe that you can say to Emerson and Whitman and James, in my veins runs the blood of poets and wise men of old, and it is my desire to come to you and receive, but I shall not come with empty hands. I believe that even as your fathers came to this land to produce riches, you were born here to produce riches by intelligence, by labor. I believe that it is in you to be good citizens. And what is it to be a good citizen? It is to acknowledge the other person's rights before asserting your own, but always being conscious of your own. It is to be free in thought and deed, but also to know that your freedom is subject to the other person's freedom. It is to create the useful and the beautiful with your own hands and to admire what others have created in love and with faith. It is to produce wealth by labor and only by labor, and to spend less than you have produced, that your children may not be dependent on the state for support when you are no more. It is to stand before the towers of New York, Washington, Chicago, and San Francisco, saying in your heart, "I am the descendant of a people that builded Damascus, and Byblos, and Tyre, and Sidon, and Antioch, and I now am here to build with you and with a will." It is to be proud of being an American, but it is also to be proud that your fathers and mothers came from a land upon which God laid his gracious hand and raised his messengers. Young Americans of Syrian origin, I believe in you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. Last night I was up till I think 1:30 between Intel and this talk. Preparing for it, I brought a couple of books. I brought quite a bit of material that I wrote over, but I've forgotten everything. So I'm going to wing it, if that's okay with you. And I am nervous. I hope that's not too obvious. But I am nervous. And before I've given talks of this form, I have typically started out with a question, and I'm really having problems with this. Can I pick it up?
Sure.
That's all right. So I've created the first problem. So what I wanted to start out with by saying is, and this will have to be a little bit of an interaction here. Why do you think I have come? How about you? Yes, that's what.
To explain the situation of the Arabs, yes.
So I have to help you understand, to educate you about the situation of the Arabs and the Muslims. One more, maybe? To create interaction. To explain what Muslims are, I need to have knowledge about Islam, which I do not. To explain about Arabs, I need to have a better understanding about Arabs, of which I am not. But there is one particular reason why I do come. After 9/11, a shudder went through our community. As we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, that somehow Muslims are not involved. None of you can even feel what that shudder is. And I hope and pray you never do. And we prayed and we prayed. We watched the TVs. We talked to our children. And then it slowly started becoming apparent that those who call themselves Muslims perpetrated this horrendous crime. And after that, we waited for a backlash. We expected it because it's natural. We expected it because we are all humans. And we didn't know what to do. For many of us, there is no other place to go. We did not know what to do. Can we pack up our bags and leave? Leave where? Go and hide? Where? Look at me. I stand out like a flag. I'm short, I'm fat. I'm dark to throw it, I'm a little peppered. So we waited, and we waited. Then on Wednesday, a call came from the United Methodist Church, Pastor Bob Noon. And he said, there is going to be an interfaith prayer. We have heard that you're associated with the mosque. Can you come? I said, fine. Had never been to an interfaith prayer. Our prayers are very straightforward. We've been doing it for 1400 years. Sometimes it's like a chicken going through our motions. Sometimes it's full of passion. So I went to the interfaith prayer. And at that time it hadn't settled in who had done it. Then slowly it became apparent. And then came Friday for our congregational prayer. And we wondered, should we cancel it? Ask our women not to come, the children not to come? Then we said, oh, what the heck. It takes only half an hour. Maybe it will be less crowded, fewer cars, no parking problems. Neighbors won't be upset, so maybe it'll be good. So some of us came. And then this big truck came by. A big burly gentleman came out. And he said, I've come from Southwest Portland. And I want to make sure nothing happens to your mosque. So he sat there outside. And people who were coming in were scared actually. Because all of us, I call ourselves altitudinally challenged. Okay? So they were wondering, who is this big guy? And after that, began our interfaith. Before 9/11, I think we had 1 or 2 interfaith discussions with the church. I remember the members of the church coming in, a fairly large group. They came in, they proselytized, we proselytized. They said they were right, we said we were right. I'm sure they thought we were going to hell. We were convinced they are going to hell. We looked at them, down. They looked at us. We had some questions and answers. We had tea. I remember we ran out of sugar. And that was the interfaith that we had. And I think part of that reason for that interfaith from our side was because the forms of our prayer and our rituals are unchanged for 1400 years. In spite of the diversity, there is a uniformity in it which is almost magical. And that makes you proud. That makes you want to insulate yourself. And perhaps that's what we did. And then the interfaith started after 9/11. And I think the exact number is 119. If I add today, it will be 120. So engineers, we round off, So when I had sent in that report, it was 115 or 16, so I rounded it off. I could have rounded it down, but when you're in the middle, you sort of round it up. The reason I come is to thank you all, each and every one of you, to look you in the eye and say, and try to give you a sense of how much of a difference your being there has made to us. All of us. I wish I could talk to everyone, but unfortunately I cannot. So every opportunity that I get of coming and talking, this is why I do it. To be able to look you in your eyes and say, you and your ancestors have done a great job. This is truly a great country. And I'm so proud to be part of it. I'm so proud that this is my home. And the reason I come is to thank each and every one of you. I cannot teach you about my religion and my faith in 15 minutes. It's absurd. I cannot give you a feel for our cultural nuances in a day, in a decade. It takes bridges. And fortunately, the bridges are already there. It was built by your ancestors, our founding fathers. It's already there. All we have to do is walk across it. That's all we have to do. History has shown strength of mighty nations are not what rumbles in the streets or flies through the air or swims through the ocean. It's in the people and its values. It's in the Constitution. And I'm here to assure you that you should have no doubts in your mind that I love this country more than you do. And I'll tell you why. What generation American are you? Yes. Fifth or sixth. So you and your ancestors have been enjoying this land for 5 or 6 generations. I've just come. I've just come. I want to enjoy it with all its glory, with all its beauty, and with all its grandeur, as I hope my son and my daughter and their generations after that enjoy it as well. So I have more of a reason to keep it better. We can argue. So I needed to get that out before I try to give you a feel for what we are about. It is amazing. It is almost like yesterday that I remember my father telling me that all you have to do in life is work hard and be able to look in a mirror and say to yourself, you have done your best. The only person you have to convince is yourself. That's all you have to do. And if you can do that, everything will be okay. So that was one advice he gave me. The second was he asked me to drink milk regularly. I think he was still hoping that I'd gain a few inches. And to travel. I don't know how much of my father's advice I've been able to keep. So I got up on the aircraft, and it was like yesterday I arrived in John F. Kennedy Airport. Man, this is it. So I go up to the counter and I show my tickets, and it was for Allegheny Airlines. And the guy says, they went kaput. I said, excuse me? They're no longer here. I said, oh my God, how do I get to Buffalo, New York? So I just stood there. So he looked at me and said, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Go sit there. So I was taken to Newark, New Jersey, and from there I flew into Buffalo. I came in, it was all white. I rode in my first yellow cab. There wasn't as much cursing as a New York taxi driver would do, but it was okay. It was like yesterday. Finished my master's. My professor was David M. Benenson. And I imitate people. So one day in the corridor, I was imitating him, not realizing that he was behind me. And he said, Shahriar, that's pretty good. So somehow I graduated. Then I came to Rice University in Houston. And came over to Portland, Oregon. Got married. And I bought my first home, the Great American Dream. And my wife had mandated that I plant a rose bush, and I was doing it. And it suddenly struck me. I'm one of those city boys. I'd never dug into the ground anywhere in my life. And then it struck me, whoa, this is home. How did it happen? How did it happen? And I remember pausing, sitting there, with the shovel and saying, man. I planted the rose bush. Unfortunately, the bush died, though. So my wife had me replant another one. It has been and continues to be a wonderful journey. It is stressful, but you are making this journey worthwhile. Lewis and Clark walked the gorges to discover this land. This is our walk. And God willing, with your help, we'll get through it. Thank you very much.
In the name of God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, I greet you all with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum. I am Imam Mikal Shabazz, and I thank you all very much for the honor and privilege of being here today, and God willing, sharing a few words with you. And perhaps you will gain as much as I've gained from listening to the two speakers before myself. I think it's really a wonderful opportunity that's being shared today. My presentation to you, or to this body today, is to address, from an indigenous Muslim's point of view, the American life, its experiences, and how we, as Muslims in America, express our faith in this society with a view of having a dual citizenship. And I say with a view of having a dual citizenship because as a Muslim, when I became Muslim consciously, or as we say in Islam, when I reverted back to Islam, then I took on a citizenship that is universal. As an American citizen, as an African American, a veteran, a citizen born here in this country, I was granted the right of citizenship by birth, but not necessarily all of the benefits of citizenship without struggle. And you perhaps know some of the history of the sojourn of the indigenous people, particularly the African American. The African American makes up a large portion of the Muslim society in America. The community that I was born into as a Muslim was at that time a community that disagreed sharply with America and sharply with America's practices and views, particularly its views regarding race and advantages and disadvantages associated with race. I came into Islam like a large majority of Muslims born in America that are of African American descent. I came in to this community of Islam under the direction of Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam in 1973. There are other African Americans who came into Islam direct, straight, without the journey through the Nation of Islam. My wife is one of them. But I have great pride, and I thank God that I came into Islam the way that I did. And I also have great pride, and I'm thankful to God that the community that I came into existed in America and that it challenged the ideas of American thinking, not necessarily the Constitution, but the realities of America. At that time, when this community was forming, in the 1930s, the glorious and beautiful history that Brother Shahriar spoke of, that is present today, was present then also for some in reality and in concept to others. We know the histories and struggles of our country. The history and struggle of our country has been long, rewarding at some points, very trying at other points. Nonetheless, the values that we have allowed us to thrive, to overcome the obstacles, and to be here present today. Having left the Nation of Islam in about 1975, under the direction of the son of the founder of the Nation of Islam, or one of the founders of the Nation of Islam, and that man is Waradi Muhammad. He began to teach our community the true values of Islam. He began to explain to us that the racial diatribes that we had adopted, calling it Islam, was incorrect and counterproductive if we intended to be citizens in the worldwide community of Muslims, and if we intended to advance beyond our pains and advance beyond the circumstances of history. I gladly accept it. I gladly accepted Islam in its fullness, and I am still to this day growing into that fullness. I gladly accepted a religion that recognized all people as having equal citizenship on earth, a citizenship given to us not by a nation or by a man or a woman, but a citizenship that is given to us by God, our Creator, that validates our authenticity and that validates our equality in terms of our presence before our Lord. And that is the religion of Islam. And the community that I belong to here in America, the indigenous community, long ago, before there was a 9/11, we embarked upon the path of examining religion from the point of view of finding out where the lines of commonality lie. We long ago embarked upon the challenge of accepting Islam not just in a selfish, self-interest type of way, but in a way that required us as citizens of Islam and as citizens of this country to do the best that we could to find ground, common ground, to work and to build for a better society. And that was quite a challenge. To come from a point of view of racial separation as a reaction to racial separation, to a point of view where we were not only willing to accept the commonness among ourselves, the legitimacy among ourselves as races, but also to strive and to build brotherhood and common ground between religions. And that has been our task since about 1979. That has been our task. And we have been working to understand the language of Islam and the language of religion itself that calls us to responsibility as citizens, that allows us to pursue every lawful and legal pursuit that this country has to offer, but it also requires us to take the kind of responsibility of citizens that guarantees our benefits and rewards as citizens. Not just to say that the society owes us, but to say that we are willing to step up and shoulder the responsibility that guarantees us a share of the American dream. And that has been the life of the community that I have belonged to, and that has been my personal goal. There is something in this religion, Islam, that is seen in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and peace be upon him, who is the patriarch for our religion. And in his farewell sermon, the last sermon that he made before he departed this earth, he made statements that addressed the conditions that we were facing here in this country, and gave the assurance from the Quran, from a point of revelation, that assured us that if we accepted the religion of Islam, not the religion of the Arab or the Pakistani or the African or the European, but the religion of Islam. And it is not our religion to own. We don't own it. We are participants in it, but we do not own it. God's prophet Muhammad says, and I'm starting from the middle of his speech, all Muslims, free or enslaved, have the same rights and responsibility. No one is higher than another unless he is higher in virtue. O people, though an Abyssinian slave may become your ruler, listen and obey him, as long as he executes the book of Allah among you. O people, listen to what I say and take it to heart. I leave you with the book of Allah and the Sunnah, that is the traditions and the lifestyle of the Prophet. If you follow them, you will never go astray. You must know that every Muslim is the brother of another Muslim. You are equal. You are members of one common brotherhood. It is forbidden for any of you to take from his brother save what the latter should willingly give. Do not oppress your people. This type of message coming to us, and all of the rest of that message coming to us, was a liberating message for the indigenous people. And it is a challenge, has always been a challenge, to avoid the extremes. And we see the extremes in our faith from among our community. We see extremes coming from Arabs. We see extremes coming from Pakistanis. We see extremes coming from ourselves even, that we have to struggle against. Those extremes that cause us to polarize to the degree that some would be so desperate because of their circumstances and because of conditions that they may have gone through, that they will take the religion itself and use the religion itself as a flag to justify acts that cannot be justified in this religion. So we are struggling as a community in America to grow naturally under the guidance of God and under the guidance and under the laws of this country, to grow naturally to the degree that we don't become Muslim Arab Muslims or other kinds of Muslims, but that we become Muslims, period, without all the other titles that go along with it. Just simply Muslims. And it is indeed a challenge. It is indeed a struggle in that dual citizenship when political issues and political ideas and political emotionally charged statements are given. We have been given the blessing from God, we feel, to have our own independent intelligentsia and our own independent thinking and leadership that keeps us moving focused on our rights and responsibilities as citizens, and focused on the great responsibility and the great opportunities that we have as Americans to move forward and to develop and establish ourselves in this country as all other people have done, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Jews, and all others that have taken this opportunity and followed their guidance and followed their book and established for themselves that which would not only benefit them, but that would benefit all others in this pluralistic society. And in a caption, that is the view of some of the African American or the indigenous Muslims in this country. Thank you very much. Peace be unto you.
Thanks to the three of you for your well-spoken words. I was curious about your interfaith experiences and wanted to know what lessons you've taken away from them.
Since I have to leave, may I answer that question first? My interfaith experiences, as I said earlier, have gone back quite a ways. For years, I've worked with groups that have come to us. I've gone to churches alone, not as in groups or congregations, but I've taken it upon myself because my parents were Christians. A lot of my friends are Christians, and I have a curiosity for finding in religion commonality. And I'm not afraid to sit in a Catholic church or a Protestant church or any other kind of church. I'm not afraid because my own faith is secure with me. But I go and I look for common ground. I've traveled across the state. I usually go alone or with one or two people as not to be intimidating. And I really enjoy people who have great faith. And I find common fellowship with those people. And I do not argue religion, so there's never an argument for me.
Can I take this out? No, I cannot. I'll tell you frankly, I like moving around, so. How shall I describe my interfaith experience? So let me give you a few examples. In the mosque in Beaverton, for one Sunday, when we have Sunday school, we also have Sunday school. Another similarity. We took a poll of how many languages are spoken. There were 19 different languages spoken in the mosque, covering Eritrea, Indonesia, Malaysia, Hindi, Urdu, Bengali, Albanian, Kosovar Albanian. There's a difference, by the way, I figured that out. And 19 different languages, but the prayers and the services are all held, the actual prayers themselves are held in Arabic. Not the Arabic of today, but the Arabic of 1400 years ago. So when we bring in our visitors, and this is explained to them, there is first a shock, and then when you explain why we face the certain direction that we do, and we explain to them we face the certain direction because of Abraham, then there is appreciation. We had brought in a Jewish group, and before the prayer, as an example of what happens during the interfaith, we have something called an ablution that we do, cleaning ourselves before the prayer. And David, he came over to me and he said, Shahriar, can you explain, what is this ablution thing that you do? So I explained it to him, and he said, so are there things that abrogate it and stuff? So I was thinking, how does he know this? How does he know to ask this question? So we are having this discussion, and then Yolin comes in and he says, David, we used to do this 200 years ago. Come on, you know this. So he looked at me and he said, well, I just wanted to find out if it's similar and stuff. Then a few weeks ago, I had gone to this church quite a ways out, and I was lost. And that area was very white. Very white. How do I know? There are no Japanese cars. And most of them became pickups. And I was lost. And I was running late. And my wife had already put me in the doghouse. She had given me a certain time by which I had to come back. So she gives me a lot of leeway on Saturdays. And I have a 4-year-old, so that's how it goes. So I pull into this restaurant, and I look around, and there's a sign that says, dogs, it bites. So I'm really apprehensive. So I go in, and there's this big guy there, and he looks at me and says, yes. And I say, I think I'm lost. He said, where do you want to go? I said, I'm looking for this, I think it was the Methodist church. I'm looking for this church. Boy, are you lost. So just with the word that I'm looking for a church, that I'm going to speak there as a Muslim, you see this big white hunk of a man become a human being. So the experience with this interfaith is being amazing. I wish we could showcase it. Every one of them is unique. There are good people reaching out, worried, concerned, and willing to accept. I mean, I can go on, but the key thing is it is showing us the real America that we had never seen.
I think there's time for one more question today. Chris?
Well, thank you. I consider myself a liberal and open-minded person, but I had a number of misconceptions dashed today, and I appreciate that very much. It seems to me that we're at a signal moment in the relationship between our country and the Arab world and the Muslim world For better or worse, whether we support the war or not, we're now the stewards of the country of Iraq and need to begin its rebuilding. Do you have any advice for our country, our government, and how we can do that in a way that will continue to build bridges between our worlds, our communities, rather than be a negative impact?
Chris, we'll have to have a whole program on that, I think.
I was going to say exactly the same.
I would begin with being open and honest about how we're perceived in the Arab world. And you do need a whole program on that.
Any other comments?
What advice would we have? I think the one advice that I would give, may God guide my words, we have a constitution. We have a set of fundamental principles which we hold dear for ourselves. If we can somehow internalize those principles as being also available for the people in Iraq, that's it. No strings with oil, no strings with fundamentalism, no strings with wanting to save our souls. If we can just internalize that these founding principles which founded this country will benefit them as well, and truly strive to bring in democracy, not a puppet, but truly bring in a democracy. That's all we need to do. That's it.
Well, thank you very much to all of our speakers. I think our presentation today is a reminder of the higher aspirations of the American idea and the hope that in our little community, at least, we can preserve what we value in American culture. Thank you, and the City Club is adjourned.